Well, how do you make sense of this? The um, the whole deal with the census is really strange. Now, is this the same God who says, who of whom we hear, he will wipe every tear from their eyes, death will be no more, mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away? Is this the same God who, in 2 Samuel here, visits a plague upon the people that killed 70,000 of them because David has made a mistake, although it's not clear what his mistake is? And then David feels bad. When David saw the angel who was striking down the people, he said to the Lord, I have sinned. I, the shepherd, have done wrong. These are but sheep. What have they done? Let your hand fall on me and my family. Well, now, if David had clearly done something wrong, then kudos to David. Maybe he's learned something in his long life. But are we dealing with a situation where David, a creature, is more moral and has more goodness than God, the Creator? That can't be. Now, if the entire Bible were like that, then it would appear to be something closer to the Quran, the Islamic holy book, in which they build up God as being entirely a creature of will. God's will is supreme. And if he wants to kill 70,000 Israelites for a reason that we can't really comprehend, that's up to him. And we can't criticize it. Mark Twain, meanwhile, said that, well, in so many words, he said, how can we say that God is good when God has created the fly, a creature that has caused more suffering to human beings perhaps than any other? You think of people in tropical countries in particular. Mosquitoes, perhaps, would be another example for those of us who are more used to pests like that. Mosquitoes can be unbearable in certain climates. Well, is that where we're at? Have we spent this semester and come to a point where we're like Christopher Hitchens, where we can say this God makes no sense? He's not a God of justice. A couple things I want to point out to you. And that is, first of all, you have the apparent contradiction between the goodness God brings to bear in the new creation in Revelations 21, the goodness of Jesus Christ throughout all the Gospels, God's mercy even to his people in Jeremiah, throughout all of Jeremiah and really all of the Old Testament, and then this strange story that sticks out like a sore thumb in 2 Samuel. Well, either you can say, I don't know, and you'd be honest perhaps, or you could do the Christopher Hitchens thing and rail against God for being unjust. But if we do that, we are judging God by a higher standard. And God ought to represent, if the word God means anything, it means the being or the entity that includes all of the highest standards. God, if there is a God, must be the ultimate limit of goodness, beyond the ultimate limit of goodness. So, what do we say of 70,000 Israelites dying? Well, we could say at least David comes off pretty well there, but then what did he do wrong with the census? Well, I'll show you one thing, and this is going to be your assignment, and I'm going to put this on um, Moodle. This is from this website, Why David's Census Was Wrong. And just quickly here, they say that Matthew Henry cites 5 possible reasons that David's census was wrong. 1, he was using it to number men under 20 years of age for army service, which was forbidden in God's law. 2, the census had no direct order from God. 3, David was going to use the results to tax the people more than the law allowed. 4, David was not trusting the promises of God to Abraham to make the people innumerable. And 5, David was exhibiting the pride of his heart in putting confidence in the number and power of his army rather than in God. Though all are plausible, and Henry believed the last one was the true reason. There's a problem with each of these proposals. No clear evidence in the text exists for any of them. Matthew Henry is speculating. He's guessing. So what's going on? There's more in that article that I want you to read, and as I say, I'll put it on Moodle, I'll put it in YouTube. There are more attempts to figure out what it is that David has done wrong because the text isn't clear on the surface what it is. I mean, we can do things that God doesn't command. That's not a sin, as long as we don't do sinful things. So even though God didn't command the census, what made it sinful? Was he somehow challenging providence by counting? Was he sort of saying, if I count and these people belong to me and I numbered them, I have control over them? Whereas ultimately, of course, God has control? I don't know the answer myself. All I know is we can't go back to the easy answer of saying, why is God like this? Because overall in the Bible, he's not like this. If you've seen anything this semester, and those of you who have been with me longer, this whole book, even though it's composed of all these different books written over thousands of years, this whole book paints the picture of the ultimate source of reality as being merciful, personal, like Jesus Christ when he was on earth. Well, that's the problem. How do we square something like this? Anyway, that's your assignment. Read the rest of that article on the speculations as to why David's census was wrong and tell me what you think of it. That's all you have to do. Then, more tomorrow.